Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, John June. Wouldn't be a show without my guy, Greg Penniman. Greg, how you doing?
Sir, doing right. Excuse me, doing all right on the Saturday morning. Feeling good. Just one step closer again to the NFL season. More preseason balls happening. I'm just, the excitement level just goes up every day as we get close. We got fights going on in practice, like people actually squaring up for fights. Like this crazy, yo. We just want to play.
Yeah, man, we saw Antonio Brown land a punch on a Tennessee Titan defensive back. We saw Sterling Shepard and Troy Hill actually square up for a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know, man. No preseason last year. These guys are getting those juices flowing. I mean, there's a lot more. It feels like, and I could fact check this, but it feels like there's a lot more joint practices this year than we've had in the past. I mean, it feels like there's always usually like a couple teams like the Patriots and the Eagles or, certain other teams that do joint practices, but it seems like almost every team in the league is doing joint practice. And that really gets the competition going. That really gets the juices flowing. So football gets my juices flowing, man. I mean, fantasy football gets just football, but as we get closer to the fantasy season, we had our League of Extraordinary People fantasy draft, which is our league of record here on the show. So, Greg, I know you're excited about your team. Ooh. I was getting sniped left and right. So I'm a little bit less excited, but I'm still excited, But today on this show, we'll be covering some of the latest news and notes. We'll be getting into some tips for managers playing in season-long leagues, whether you've listened to us before, we've given out some of these tips, but if you're a first-time listener, if you're a first-time season-long player, then you're definitely going to want to check in with these tips that we have for you. And then a segment that we started last year, and, we thought that it was a really good exercise for us to go through, is the what could go right, what could go wrong, right? Where we take a guy that we're either high on or low on, and see what the range of outcomes could be for that guy. Maybe they're a breakout player for us, and we say, hey, what could actually go wrong, so where that doesn't happen. So that was a pretty good segment we did last year, and so we decided to bring it back again this year. And so, Greg, we're going to jump right into the news, and the first item today, Jalen Hurts, he sat out the preseason game, the Eagles preseason game on Thursday night. He was being evaluated for abdominal pain. He actually had to go to the hospital. Seems like he had a stomach bug, but he told the coaches before the game, hey, I'm not feeling right. So they held him out. And, obviously this game was meaningless as it's the second preseason game, the second of three preseason games. Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback for this team. There's pretty much no question about that. And so, any nervousness here, or are you good to go with Jalen?
It's just always, maybe a little nervous because again, non-contact injury, something that just happened, kind of like just random stuff that could happen. He could be, sick, whatever. We don't speculate. So, but I'm fine with he should be back. In general, I don't think it will affect him on the field. He said he should be okay. We just monitor that situation. I wouldn't be so nervous, but it is a off the field non-contact injury, so that could put some concern.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was a stomach bug. Maybe he didn't eat something good, or something like that, or didn't eat enough, or whatever. But whatever the case may be, he seems to be okay. Next up, we had N'Keal Harry, just a trio of receivers here on the news, but N'Keal Harry has no structural damage in his shoulder. Apparently, he'll be able to rehab without surgery. He was having what seems to be, like, for all the reports, have been a pretty decent camp, a good camp, better than what he's shown in the past, has shown better route running and whatnot. Got injured laying out for a ball on Thursday in Thursday's game. Curtis Samuel, moving on to Washington. He didn't play in Friday's preseason game against the Bengals. He was recently activated from the PUP list last week. So obviously, Washington's trying to ease him back in. I think he had dealt with COVID. He was on the COVID list, and then he had another injury. There was something like that with Curtis Samuel. So, he seems to be trending back in the right direction. And then there's Cortland Sutton, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He confirmed that he'll play in at least one preseason game. He's dealing with the ACL injury that he had last year. He was able to practice. He returned to training camp on time. Has been practicing with a knee brace, but it seems like he's on track to be a week one starter there for the Denver Broncos. What are your expectations for Cortland Sutton as we head into 2021?
I was really high on him, just always in general, as a player after his breakout sophomore year. I thought he was going to even go crazier last year. I still think he has that potential if he plays week one and is healthy. He was a big kind of popular sleeper wide receiver that you can get in that wide receiver 25 to 30 range that can give you possibly some wide receiver 1 weeks for sure.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton he's just a man, bro. Like, that's how I just define him. Like, he's just a grown man. I remember his rookie season. I kept waiting for the breakout to come because he led the league in air yards, and it was like Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders on the Broncos. But that breakout year came the second year, and again, I was expecting big things from him last year. Tore his ACL early week 2, but again, it seems like he's on track. Does have a little bit more competition here from Jerry Jeudy, but I think Cortland Sutton's the alpha. As long as he's healthy, I expect him to trend in that range. And like you said, he's going in the wide receiver 20 to 30 range. I've gotten him later than that in drafts, and I've got him inside my top 20 in terms of projections and rankings. And so I just keep plugging away at Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald, that's a name we haven't heard in a while, right? He seems like he'll continue doing broadcasting for now. He said that quote was, to be honest with you, in regards to whether he would play, he said, I just don't have the urge to play right now. So we're in August. We're August 21st. Like, if he doesn't have the urge to play in August, you never know. Like, maybe it's like Brett Favre status, Michael Strahan, where they're like, I want to play in September.
Yeah,
no preseason games.
Training camp and preseason when you get older. He's been through that so many times.
But then you look at this depth chart here for the Arizona Cardinals, and what is the expectation? I mean, the Cardinals said that they would love to have him back, right? But I don't think it would really mean anything from a fantasy perspective. At least I hope not. You got DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Rondell Moore, Christian Kirk has apparently been playing well in camp as well. So, how would you feel if Larry Fitzgerald made his way back to this Arizona Cardinals depth chart?
I wouldn't be too concerned. Maybe for the slot receiver in the offense. I'm not sure how Kingsbury's gonna set up how he's gonna who's gonna be in the slot. But I think that's probably the only player that would be slightly effective. Larry Fitzgerald wasn't ever really fantasy relevant for the last maybe 3 years, so I wouldn't really put a lot of stock into his impact if he comes back or not.
Yeah, and I would hope. I think that Rondell Moore will probably end up being the slot guy for the Arizona Cardinals. But I would hope that if Larry Fitzgerald does make his way back, that they choose to play the second round pick with some juice in there over the 38-year-old.
Right.
So that is just my hope. I mean, he doesn't want to play right now, doesn't have the urge. So, let's keep it that way, Larry. Future Hall of Famer, love you, buddy. Emmanuel Sanders, he's been in and out of practice with a foot injury. It's not considered serious, but he's 34 years old, and he was having a good camp. Was expected to play a major role in this Bills wide receiver core. What are your feelings about Emmanuel Sanders? Does this potentially open the door for a guy that we've both been banging the drum on, and Gabriel Davis? What are your thoughts there, Greg?
Yeah, definitely does slide up Gabriel Davis's impact. Emmanuel Sanders is going to be in and out in the lineup to start, and then it could be just a situation he deals with all year, so they might have to peel his targets back a little bit. Emmanuel Sanders pretty impactful for making that, trying to like that 25 to 30. Sometime getting those weeks where he get some targets, but if he's in and out a lot of, Gabriel Davis can slide into a passing offense, which would be great. As that third receiver, that he can have impact as well.
Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders, he had 726 yards for the Saints last year on 82 targets. Filled in. I think people were upset when he first filled in for Michael Thomas, because he wasn't really. But either way, people were upset. He did pick it up a little bit near the end, but he's not the same player that we saw in San Francisco, where he was averaging almost 14 yards a catch. But I think in this offense, he can provide a decent number two option. However, I know you and I are both really high on Gabriel Davis, and we would like Gabriel Davis to take over this number two receiver role. Or, number two,
Cole
number
Beasley,
three.
man.
Cole
Cole
Beasley,
Beasley's
yeah,
always going to get his targets,
No, Cole Beasley's going to get his targets. In the back of my mind, I just have to. Cole Beasley's expensive. There's obviously I'm not gonna don't want to get into all of it, but he has some opinions that may not jive with that of the organization. And so, there's just some writing on the wall where when I do my projections and my rankings, I can't guarantee that Cole Beasley's on the roster. So I kind of hedge for that. So, until week one starts and he's on the active roster, I will refer to Cole Beasley as the number two receiver on the team.
Got it.
Moving forward, David Njoku, who recently asked for a trade out of Cleveland, says he wants to stay in Cleveland, and he's instructing his agent to start working on a new deal. So definitely a change of heart here for the Cleveland Browns tight end, who had most recently wanted to get out of there with the signing of Austin Hooper, the drafting of Harrison Bryant. He's still young at 25 years old, so it's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's another leverage play by him, like, hey, let's negotiate, but give me a ton of money, and then they'll be like, okay, we'll trade you. But I don't know, just speculating. Carl Lawson, this one hurts my soul. Suffered a ruptured Achilles on Thursday in his joint practice against the Green Bay Packers, so he will miss the 2021 season. Was expected to fill that edge rusher role that the Jets have sorely missed, but that's important for this Robert Saleh defense that he's bringing over with him from the 49ers. So definitely definitely a hit there for the Jets defensive line, but I think from a fantasy football perspective, not IDP related and not defensive related, I think that this probably makes more pass attempts for Zach Wilson. So if you're playing in a QB2 league, probably gives him some more upside, or when we're streaming this year, probably makes him a candidate at some points depending on the matchup. And then the next thing that we have here, this is actually good news. DeAndre Swift returned to practice on Thursday from a groin injury, and he took a heavy load of the reps there. So it seems like he's aiming to be good to go. I don't expect him to play in any preseason games. Like, just put that dude on ice until week one, man. What's your excitement level there, Greg? I know he's a guy that you recently added to your League of Extraordinary People team. He's also a guy that we both are very high on. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, DeAndre Swift. Yes, love this guy. Love the receptions he's going to bring, especially in full point PPR leagues. He's going to get the work. People think he's not going to get that workload. I think he's going to get it. Just like Antonio Gibson's getting those rumors of getting Christian McCaffrey workload, I see no reason why DeAndre Swift shouldn't get those same kind of rumors. He's going to be a beast. He's going to be a steal of a lot of drafts. I think steal of our draft. I got him as my RB2. So yeah, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, let's move on to the next topic. I'm just messing. I'm just a little salty, man. I was, hoping DeAndre Swift to make it back to me. I was hoping Brandon Ayuk would make it back to me. Neither one of those things happened. Either way, DeAndre Swift, he's been a steal of a lot of drafts. He went in my auction league. I told you RB26 based on pricing.
Crazy.
It's people are down on Swift. They don't look at him like they look at these other second-year running backs like Jonathan Taylor or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is getting so much forgiveness from the fantasy community, right? And it's like, but DeAndre Swift shouldn't have to ask you for forgiveness.
He produced.
He didn't do anything to you. Like, he 14.6 PPR points a game last year. DeAndre Swift was a really good football player. He was a really good fantasy asset. So wake up, people. Stop letting DeAndre Swift slip into the third
Please.
or fifth round of your leagues. Like, just take that man. He's gonna be a top. He's gonna be a top 15 back for sure. But he has like top 10 upside in him because of that receiving ability that Greg had alluded to. So let's get into the season-long manager tips, and a lot of these might sound familiar because I promise you, they're the same ones. Greg, maybe you added something, but I literally have the same ones I had last year. And so, tip number one for me is no tilting. If you aren't familiar with the term, it's essentially no overreacting. And while it's mainly associated with a negative outcome, it can we can also tilt to good things. So whether don't get high, don't get too high, don't get too low, depending on what happens, right? Bad things are going to happen. Players are going to have a bad game. You're going to lose a game or two. Someone's going to get injured. They might even get COVID. I was hoping I could have left that part out, but we're not out of the clear yet.
Nope.
So but stay level headed, right? It's called season long for a reason. So I've told this story many times on the show, but our league mate Oscar in the League of Extraordinary People a few years ago started out 0-4, and he did not give up, and he ended up winning the league that year. And so if you can just keep that mentality, hey, it's a season long league, take it 1 week at a time, try to go 1-0 every single week, then you're gonna have a much better time playing this game. You know, if a guy you drafted highly doesn't perform, there might not be any reason to cut him, right? Like, pay attention to the situation, snaps, opportunities, air yards, judge the value of the player off of those peripheral numbers and not just the fantasy output alone. Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a pretty good one, especially the season long is a long game. It even became longer. We got a 18th week now. So you added a 14th regular season game for a lot of managers. So that's nice, to maybe make that comeback for your team. So yeah, definitely stay patient. Especially, I know after week 4, that's when the most betrays be happening and stuff like that. People are ready to give up. But definitely assess the situation, level headed, and take it from there.
Greg, what is your tip for the people today?
I think a really popular one. I think especially because last year we had a game on every day of the week because of COVID, and you said it that it's not over yet, and we kind of have a lot of rescheduling and stuff. So if a game like on a Monday or the game like a Thursday night game, try to make sure to put that, of course, those running backs and wide receivers that playing from your flex spot into those receiver or running back and receiver spots. So it's to save your flex position for Sunday, or even if you have a Saturday game, slide that in. So yeah, just keep your options open till the latest point in time, till Monday night. Keep your flex option open always.
No, that's a huge one, and it's usually underlooked because, let's say you have an injury and you left someone in your running back spot and you could only play now a running back.
Ooh,
like
it's tough.
It's
tough.
That's going to be slim pickings, but at least if you kept them if you had that flex spot open, you would be able to play either a running back or a wide receiver, right? And sometimes it's easier to find those wide receivers on the waiver wire. So definitely a great tip right there, Greg. Mine is work the waiver wire. Again, it's a grind, and you have to work the waivers, whether you're streaming, you're looking for guys to add to your roster because you think their role can grow. Don't be afraid to spend your fab money early, your free agent acquisition budget early. If there's a player on waivers that can help your team, even for a week to buy you a win, don't be afraid to spend that money. Also, try to be a week ahead on players so you don't have to use your fab money. If you're streaming quarterbacks and defenses, or maybe even have bye weeks coming up, pick up some guys earlier so that you don't have to outbid other managers or burn priority. And if you're using waiver priority, don't be afraid to burn that priority early, right? Like, everyone tries to save that number one waiver for so long. Just burn it early if you think there's a guy that's worth it. If your other leagues, Greg, you and I, we do this all the time. We're in a league where no one in the top half uses their waivers, and so we're just in the bottom half, just constantly using our priority. So try to approach that or try to adopt that mindset to your game as well. But again, try to be early, pick up these guys as free agents so you don't have to pick them up on waivers. Like that's something that we do, that we talk about all the time, and we'll tell you if you're listening to us in season, like, hey, pick this guy up because he might be a guy that a couple weeks from now we're picking up off waivers. So, Greg, anything to add to that?
No, that's a pretty one. That's probably the best one, the most active one. Just be ready. You could get that James Robinson after week one. You get that Myles Gaskin after week one. These are two guys last year that potential top 15 receivers that were on the waiver wire just chilling, going on. Yeah, running backs pretty much. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, Myles Gaskin was basically a receiver, so I'll give you that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely the 2 years ago, DJ Shark. Like, yeah, there's always going to be someone there that you're probably like, oh, I have this one waiver spot, I don't want to use it now, and then he's gonna go off like after week one. That's a nice popular waiver week because we kind of solidify what the depth charts are kind of looking at. First preview of that because no one really knows at the end of the day.
Yeah, like when we thought Jordan Howard was going to be the guy.
Yep.
And then it was Myles Gaskin.
Yep.
But it was okay because we just pivoted really quick.
Real quick. Yep.
Really quick. We just did a pivot. So, Greg, what is your next tip for the people?
Yeah, just pretty much like have fun at the end of the day. Trades are fun. Just talking about fantasy day to day is fun. Have fun with it. Don't get too frustrated. I know fantasy football can humble you real quickly. Those Sundays can look real bleak. So just try to have fun with it and win these ships.
Absolutely. I'll add to that one. Actually, one of the things I stopped doing is stop checking my score like all day Sunday. Like, we play this game because we want to enjoy. I mean, obviously we want to win. We're competitive, right. But like we first started playing this game because like we want to just get more into football and watch football more, right? Like I wanted to be able to watch a game like the Bengals and the Raiders that I wouldn't have cared about, but now I actually do care about it because I do want to watch these guys play. So, maybe I have some of these guys on my fantasy team, but don't check the scores. Just watch the games and have fun, right? And it'll make you, have you looking, maybe seeing other things that you wouldn't have seen, like another player or why your player isn't playing well, right? Different things like that instead of just constantly checking your score. I'm going to say, to add to the waiver one, save an emergency fund. Again, talking fab here, like a few dollars, $5-6 to be able to outbid opponents when you do make it to the playoffs for like that defense or that quarterback, or maybe their starting running back goes down, whatever it may be. Just try to save up some of your money, and if you're playing in the archaic waiver system, if you find yourself creeping into the top half in your waiver priority near the playoffs, just start saving it if your team is already loaded at that point. The last one I have is stay with us, and this is deeper than just simply saying listen to us or watch us on YouTube, and that you'll win your league. We obviously believe that, and we helped a bunch of people win their leagues before, or at least come really close to it. But even if you run into some bad luck or injuries, or you lose to the highest scoring team every week, make sure you're paying attention to what's happening in the NFL, which players are rising in fantasy. Pay attention to stuff like that because it's useful information for the following year. For example, guys like Jonathan Taylor, Antonio Gibson, Brandon Ayuk all finished the end of last year on a very strong note. And so that's part of the reason why these guys are going high in fantasy drafts this year. That's part of the reason why we're relatively high on these guys as they enter fantasy drafts. It was the same thing with AJ Brown 2 years ago. Like the end of that playoff run, or the end of that season run, like week 13 on, you're like, yo, this dude is the man. And you really saw it. And that's why we were taking him so high last year, and we weren't afraid to do that. So, Greg, anything to add to those?
Yeah, no, that pretty summed it up. I like that one. Hopefully that's going to be, Javonte Williams hopefully starts a little earlier than that, but hopefully he's that guy, coming down the stretch winning chips.
Yeah, man. I mean, somebody's going to be, and the only way to find out is to stay plugged in, paying attention. So we're gonna find it out. But you did get my brain going when you were talking about, Thursday night football and putting your guys on waivers, which then made me think about something that it's a tip. If you want to get, I mean, we're all competitive, right? We want to win. So if your league does not have a restriction, like say you're playing Yahoo and it doesn't have a restriction on when you can pick up players or drop players, right? Like I know in ESPN, like you can't drop a player once they played, but I look at my bench as like a practice squad sometimes, right? Like if I have a spot that I know is open, I'll pick it up. I'll pick somebody up. If they play on Thursday night, I'm like, okay, let me see how this guy does. Or like, Greg, we've done this before. Pick up a running back,
Yep.
a backup running back if they happen to be on
Before the Monday
waivers
night game, even
for the
yeah.
Monday night game, the Thursday night game, whatever, so that we never hope for injuries or anything, but it happens, right? And so
Yeah.
if it happens, you end up scooping that guy up, and you don't have to pay a premium on waivers to get them.
Yep.
But what I'll do sometimes, I'll pick up a guy on Thursday, see how he does. Didn't play well, drop him. Pick up another guy on Sunday for the 1 o'clock games. He didn't play well, drop him. 4 o'clock, so on and so forth. And so you can just exercise that roster spot. Hey, we look for every edge out here. So one ways we also look for edge, Greg. You and I were doing our weekly projections this year, and so that's one way we're trying to get an edge. That's one way we're trying to give our listeners here an edge. And one of the ways you could use that edge is playing Thrive Fantasy. So, Greg, why don't you tell the people about what Thrive has going on, man?
Oh yeah, you already know Thrive Fantasy. Definitely come on, prop up on Thrive Fantasy this football season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily sports and esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate countless hours of research and focus on only the top tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Choose 10 out of 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and the under based on how likely it is to hit. You got to hit the most props and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. It sounds pretty simple to me. Thrive has over 140,000 guaranteed prizes for NFL Week 1 and has awarded over $4 million. That's a lot of change right there. So definitely interested. You got me interested right away. Thrive's featured 100,000 guaranteed contest is 20 to enter, and first place takes home $20K. So all you got to do, use the promo code FFDX when you sign up today, and you will receive $100% instant first deposit match up to $100. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store, or by visiting their website at www.thrivefantasy.com. Use that promo code FFDX. Sign up today.
Very professional read there, Greg. Like it. I like it. So everyone, obviously, Thrive Fantasy, we've recently partnered with them, so we're excited about that. So if you are watching on YouTube, you can obviously see the promo code FFDX. If you're listening on podcast platform, the code is FFDX. But either way, whether you're listening to us on podcast or YouTube, just make sure you subscribe and make sure you are hitting those notifications so that you don't miss an episode, especially when the season starts. We're going to be in September. We'll be 4 shows a week. You're not going to want to miss this magic that we make 4 shows a week. It's going to be awesome, amazing. But it would be even more amazing if all of our calls this year go right, Greg. But we know that that's not going to happen. It's like impossible for it to happen. But we have to look at the range of outcomes for all these different players across the league, all these players that we prognosticated on. So what could go right? We'll start there. And
Okay.
it was interesting because I looked at my list last year, and I had Josh Jacobs was a what could go right for me because he was my bust candidate. Nick Chubb was a what could go wrong for me because he was my guy or my ride or die last year. Miles Sanders, I think, was another guy. AJ Brown was another guy that was what could go wrong, since because I was basically in love with them. So it was really interesting to go back and kind of look at those players that I had written down. But Nick Chubb actually makes it again for me this year as a what could go right candidate. This year he makes me, this year I haven't been as loud about Nick Chubb because last year I felt there was like a bit of a disrespect for Nick Chubb. But he's one of my favorite runners in the league. People know that. I could watch him run all day. The last year, the threat to his production was Kareem Hunt, who was a fine running back option last year and filled in admirably for Nick Chubb when he was out with the injury. But in 12 games last year, Chubb ran for almost 1,100 yards. He was on a 16-game pace of more than 1,400 rushing yards. The year before, he ran for almost 1,500 yards. I projected Nick Chubb to lead the NFL in rushing last year. Obviously, that didn't happen, but there's no saying that it can't happen this year, right? He averaged 5.6 yards per carry last year in Stefanski's wide zone run scheme, mainly due to his ability to make defenders miss. He was ninth in yards after contact and fourth in broken tackles, despite missing 4 games last year. I think with some consistent volume, being the engine of the Browns' offense, and potentially seeing more involvement in the pass game, Nick Chubb has top 5 upside based on talent alone. And if everything comes together, we're talking about a top 3 potential finish here for Mr. Chubb.
Yeah, I could see his range of outcomes being that high, especially because this is a run-first team in the Cleveland Browns. It's a guy that when both of them, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb was playing, he was still getting his carries, still getting his touches, close to 20 and over 20 in some games. So, yeah, I see no reason why they both can't thrive, and Nick Chubb, of course, being the higher threat there. So, yeah, I'm definitely on board with Nick Chubb.
And you could basically copy and paste a lot of what I said for Jonathan Taylor. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
And that's with no Kareem Hunt, so that's even more of like a
yeah. I mean, he's got Naheem Hines in his like a thorn in the side, but
that's true.
Greg, who's your first what could go right candidate today?
Gotta talk about my guy, Saquon. Even though I'm still low on him in the rankings, I still, have to talk about the fact that if the Giants are gonna have him out there week 1, like, it seems like it's back and forth every day. We don't really know. And if they're going to give him the full workload, the full workload that, we expect Saquon to probably, build up to, or I expect him to build up to, which is, 20 touches a game, working in the passing game, working in the carries. This is a guy that's going to be a steal. He's a steal and going in a lot of drafts right now. There's rankings that have him out the top 10 of running backs, in the bottom 10, with the touches that you're going to expect Saquon to get in a full workload playing week 1. See no reason Saquon should be finishing top 3. Like, that's what Saquon does. That's his production. So, yeah, it's a matter of really, is he going to be there available, or to ready to go, and are they going to unleash him?
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the grin on my face, ear to ear. If you're listening, then I just announced it to you because I'm just really excited, Greg. I mean, I didn't know. I knew that I wouldn't take long for me to get you over here because he's a Giants fan. Because you're a Giants fan, I feel like I know you're unbiased in your takes when it comes to fantasy and the Giants. You separate the two, but Saquon Barkley is an unremarkable talent.
Yes, yes.
Like you said, I mean, if he plays week 1, he's a discount because he's going. And I've seen him go as late as like 10 in some leagues. I mean, this guy, like you said, top 3 potential. And it's funny because Troy King tweeted this out recently the other day. He said, so why didn't McCaffrey get hurt last year too? Like, why is he just universally like the number 1 pick? Like, shouldn't people think about, but and I'm not saying that to say like maybe we shouldn't take McCaffrey number 1. I'm just saying like Saquon he looks to be healthy. So I like this. What could go right? Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one.
All right. My next what could go right candidate is Henry Ruggs. Seems to be the forgotten man amongst the first round wide receivers last year. Don't tell Jalen Reagor I said that. But from Jefferson to Lamb to Judy to Ayuk, all of these guys coming into 2021 have high expectations from fantasy managers, but not Ruggs. And he was the first wide receiver taken in his class last year. Now, whether the Raiders should have done that or not, that's a different conversation. But the point remains, Ruggs is clearly a talented football player. He was efficient last year on limited opportunities, 43 targets, had a 60.5% catch rate at over 17 yards per reception, and 2 touchdowns. Of all wide receivers last year with at least 40 targets, only one wide receiver had yards per reception of over 17 yards per catch and a 60% catch rate or higher. And yes, that one wide receiver is Henry Ruggs. And so he had the highest A dot or average depth of target of any Raiders wide receiver last year, 17.1. Next was Nelson Aguilar at 15.5. He was the Raiders' deep threat. Nelson Aguilar was on 80 plus targets. Aguilar is now was allowed to walk in free agency. Ruggs, the former first round pick, is in line for this Aguilar role, which could be somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 100 targets. We're talking about a good season for Henry Ruggs if he can get to that number. If Ruggs is as efficient as he was last year as a rookie, he's a shoe-in for 1,000 yards on 100 targets. So that's the kind of upside I look for when I'm taking a wide receiver this late in drafts, and Ruggs brings that.
Yeah, that's super solid. Yeah, he was rated as probably the best one out of those receivers that were coming out of Alabama before Devontae Smith. So yeah, we pretty high on, like, as a player, definitely high on him last year. Battling with some injuries, but his air yards were high in those games that he played, so the potential is there.
Definitely, man, definitely. Greg, what do you got for another guy?
Going to talk about some tight ends, mostly specifically Blake Jarwin. I think the what could go right for him. Just he's going absolutely undrafted in leagues, a lot of leagues, or even just the last tight end off the board. The what could go right is that if he slides in as the full number one tight end role in this Dallas Cowboys offense, that with Dak, that has always been a player that's targeted the tight end. Dalton Schultz last year got 89 targets last year. So if you're expecting Blake Jarwin to kind of slide in and take that production, you're going to get a guy that's going to get you definitely top tight end one value. That's going pretty much for free in drafts. So I think that's a big one for me that I can pluck for Blake Jarwin at the end of drafts at the tight end position, especially if you didn't get one of those top 5, top 4 guys.
Yeah, definitely. With how late he's going in drafts, I mean, you could build this like monster of a team and then just plug Blake Jarwin. And again, like we said with this tight end position and Dak Prescott, those are targets that are going to be available probably in the neighborhood of like 4 to 7 targets in a week, right? And you would take that in a PPR league. So I'm all about that. My last what could go right candidate here is DJ Moore, man. Well, one of my favorite wide receivers going into last year. I thought he would be an absolute PPR machine like he was in 2019 when he gobbled up 87 catches on 135 targets in just 15 games. Last year, though, was a bit different for DJ Moore, was utilized differently in this Joe Brady-led offense, instead catching 66 passes on 118 targets. But both of these years, he was just short of 1,200 receiving yards. He actually had more receiving yards in 2020 than he did in 2019 in 2019 as his yards per reception was up 4.5 yards from 13.5 yards per reception in 2019 to 18.1 in 2020.
What a jump.
Right? It's just, again, Moore is a special talent. He's a 98th percentile prospect in my prospect model. He showed off his versatility last year, playing two different roles in back-to-back seasons. Like we rarely ever see a guy go from you're going to be a PPR machine. I think Stephon Diggs was the last guy we've seen do that and do it at a high level. And this guy enters his 4th season in the NFL. He's still getting better and presumably getting a quarterback upgrade from a guy that I personally still believe in Sam Darnold. So if Sam can be better than Teddy Bridgewater last year and Joe Brady can utilize DJ Moore in some of these routes that are maybe closer to the line of scrimmage, then similar to how he was used a little bit in 2019, but not saying that they'll completely flip the switch because I don't think that would happen. But I'm just saying if they utilize him some more, not just use him exclusively as a deep threat. They have Terrace Marshall there, the talented rookie who can do play some different roles. So I'm hoping for the rise here of DJ Moore, who's a talented wide receiver and could be and is still a rising star in fantasy.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like they, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson just switched roles last year about what we thought they were going to be. So yeah, probably both those guys are gonna thrive, and I think they were able to kind of work it out. Joe Brady's just a offensive mastermind, so I'm excited for those two going forward.
Yeah, man. So, Greg, that wrapped up my what could go rights. Do you have another what could go right, or are you on what could go wrong?
No, I think we're on ready to the what could go wrong.
All right, man. I'll start it, man, because I just want to get this one out early because I didn't even want to do it. I want to even cry just thinking about it. But Brandon Ayuk, and one of my favorite players across the NFL right now, as fans of this show would know, 99th percentile prospect in my wide receiver prospect model. I love the talent that Ayuk is, and like I've been saying, he's on his way to becoming one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. In terms of what could go wrong for Ayuk, well, there's a couple of things, right? First is the target share. Last year he dominated the target share for the 49ers, leading the team in targets with 96, but that a lot of that was due to guys like George Kittle and Deebo Samuel missing time. So if Ayuk isn't the guy for the 49ers, like I've been projecting, that's something that could go wrong there for him. And then another thing is, what if this offense becomes, what if this, so no, back to that role, but like back to that point, what if this offense runs through Kittle like it has in the past, and Deebo Samuel, who's, he's received rave reviews in camp, challenges Ayuk for some targets. And then the last point is, what if there's run-centric offense, or what if it becomes a run-centric offense, especially if and when rookie quarterback Trey Lance gets into the lineup. There's some risk associated with a player like Ayuk being in the offense that he's in, but I'm shooting for the upside with Ayuk, that the one that he showed as a rookie last year. So that's my first what could go wrong candidate.
Yeah, definitely 49ers, have in the past, done some mysterious things that, on fantasy day that were like, what just happened, especially with the running back. So the wide receivers, Shannon has been kind of consistent on, but yeah, the running backs have been very up and down. So yeah, definitely a good one there. My first one that has to do with Dak Prescott, actually. This is a guy that, his rushing numbers in his previous seasons, excluding last season, he had at least 250 rushing yards in each of the seasons and 3 touchdowns. He had he has 24 total in his rushing career, which is a pretty good number. That's for a guy that's still young in his career, 24 rushing touchdowns. And he's coming off the injury, and it's not that I don't think he can run. I think he can do what he can rushing wise. As far as the coaching and the play calling, I don't think they're probably going to maybe could peel him back a little bit rushing wise, and which could bring down his rushing touchdown number and also bring down his rushing yards number, which ultimately bring down his cap of his production and makes him kind of solely relied on the passing yards, which this offense will have. But we're moving to kind of a dual threat quarterback way. Dak Prescott wasn't a super heavy rusher, but in the red zone, he did get a number of touchdowns. So I'm just a little worried that might fall.
Yo, that's definitely possible. I mean, this is a guy that throughout his career he had 3 straight years of 6 rushing touchdowns. You
Yeah.
could almost like every year. I remember talking about fantasy every year. You could try and take that to the bank. Well, he'll have 6 rushing touchdowns, but obviously didn't get it in 2019. He only had 3, but he was on pace for it to get to exceed that mark last year. We had 3 through 5 games, so it's definitely a good point. Hopefully they don't do that when they get to the red zone. I mean, I could understand not wanting to run him, but when you get to the red zone, you gotta run Dak, man.
Hey,
But
hand it out to my
yeah.
man Zeke. Let him eat more. That's what could go right for him, if anything.
Definitely, man. But yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm gonna move on to my what could go wrong candidate, my second one here, and I don't want you to hear what I'm not saying, people. I love this man. I love DeAndre Swift. I may not have always loved him, but I fell in love with the player last year. He was 32nd in opportunity share last year, but he was 16th in fantasy points per game. Just speaking to his efficiency, a lot of that came because of the work he did as a receiver out of the backfield. Now, the reasons to be concerned with Swift, he is dealing with the groin injury, like that we talked about, which he suffered earlier in camp, and he has dealt with injuries. He dealt with injuries last year, missing 3 games. He missed time prior to the season starting as well. He was a player that in college suffered from a lot of soft tissue injuries. And so, he could end up missing time. All running backs miss time at some point or another, but it's just one thing to factor. And then on top of that, consider his new offensive coordinator and Anthony Lynn, who I'm not in love with at all. But while I do think that this becomes a running back centric offense, which could be good for Swift in terms of volume, but what it could also mean is that the touchdown opportunities might not be there because I don't think Anthony Lynn, we saw the offense that he didn't run because he wasn't the coordinator, but that was his imprint was on it with the Chargers. They ran on first and second down. They didn't extend a lot of first downs. Justin Herbert was bailing them out. I don't think Jared Goff is the type of quarterback to bail people out. So again, there maybe the touchdown opportunity is capped, and so that caps some of the upside there for Swift. Now, again, I love Swift. I'm not saying that I don't want him on my fantasy teams. I'm just acknowledging the range of outcomes here for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. Just my man Swift is hopefully, he can stay healthy throughout the year. He definitely already got some trouble in training camp, but everyone's getting banged up. He'll be all right.
Yeah, no, definitely hope that he's all right, man, because he's definitely a fun player to watch. One of the better running backs in the league. Greg, who's your next what could go wrong candidate?
Definitely, I'm gonna say Travis Etienne. Just because we do all expect, and with the offense, the style, the coaching, that Etienne is gonna take the bulk of the carries and be this a versatile player, which the versatility is definitely going to be there. But we don't want to make sure that if it could go wrong, that James Robinson is very heavily involved in this offense. Like he did a lot of proving last year to show that he could be a number one running back in the NFL. He didn't do anything wrong. He earned his keep. So just a matter of how that distribution is going to be truly between Robinson and Etienne. If it's what could go wrong if it's closer to a 50-50 rather than like a 60-30 kind of or 60-40 sorry, or 70-30 split for ETN.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one there because it is true, right? Like when there's two running backs in the backfield that are so talented, like we have to acknowledge that there's a probability that it can go either way, right? And so I think that, it obviously makes sense that, hey, Travis Etienne is going to take on this hybrid receiver role, and gobble up the receptions. But James Robinson can catch the ball too. He had a decent amount of targets last year and a good amount of receptions. And so, to think that he can't do that would be a fallacy there. And so I out of respect for James Robinson, I do understand this one here. This next one, man, I didn't even want to do it, but I was forced to by the powers that produce this podcast. Kyle Pitts. Now, I've been preaching about Pitts being my tight end 4 this year, with the floor being tight end 6. I've also said that without Julio Jones, Pitts should be 1,000-yard receiver for the Falcons. That's what I have projected for him. But the fact remains that Pitts is a rookie getting ready to play probably one of the hardest positions to transition to in the NFL because of all the responsibilities that a tight end could have on any given play, whether it's running a route, pass blocking, run blocking. Also enter the fact that there's a veteran former first-round pick in his tight end room in Hayden Hurst. And while Hurst didn't perform to the level that managers wanted last year, he's still a good tight end and will be involved in this offense. Arthur Smith ran a lot of 12 personnel in Tennessee, and I think that we see some of that here with 2 talented tight ends in Atlanta. And so now the question remains, how much will Hurst be involved and how quickly will Pitts adjust to the NFL? Since 2010, only 2 rookie tight ends have averaged more than 10 PPR points per game. If Pitts can be the third in that time, then I believe a tight end 1 finish is in the cards for him. But just be mindful that we are expecting Pitts to be an outlier, so that comes with some risk.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime rookie tight ends just historically are it's not the year for them. You usually expect a great rookie season to be over 500 yards and then call it a day. We're expecting great things out of Kyle Pitts. I've seen expected tight ends to to do well, and then they just become glorified blockers. So yeah, it's interesting for offenses. So I'm excited for Kyle Pitts and what he can do though.
No, I'm definitely excited. Again, just acknowledging the range of outcomes here, and just want to educate the people here a little bit.
Yep.
Greg, do you have any more what could go wrongs?
This one's more of a joke, but not really though. Travis Kelce, his beard, he cut his beard. I think that's gonna steal all his talent, yo. That has all his talent, his skill, his swag, everything, bro. Like I don't want to take Travis Kelce in the first round anymore. That just took away his first round swag, yo. It's crazy. Like he really cut his beard. Like what was this man thinking? Like I don't understand. Like the memes that I've seen on that the beard and everything is probably the best thing I've seen this year. It's crazy how different he looks. I've never seen such a I don't know. I'm speechless.
Right? It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, one of the memes was, the guy she's you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. And It was Travis Kelce without the beard. Then Travis Kelce with the beard. So that was funny, man. Grow the beard back. Bring it back, Kelce. Or, the craziest thing I found out this year was that his name is not Travis Kelce, it's Travis Kelce. But
yeah, who is he's probably an imposter playing the real Travis Kelce. Whoever this guy is.
They look like completely different people. Like,
oh yeah, they do.
Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. But everyone, this was fun. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't listened to the mock draft that we did, you want to go back and listen to that. That feels like forever ago. But it's out there. So go check that out. But again, we will catch y'all next week. We appreciate y'all for vibing with us. Definitely appreciate y'all for the support and the love that we've gathered thus far. Make sure, again, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you're rating and reviewing. Hit us up in the comment section. We love to interact with everybody, and make sure you're following the show at FF Diagnostics. Make sure you're following Greg on Twitter at gmoney_truth. Follow him on Instagram as well at we_made_it. You can follow me at JRFootballNerd on all social media platforms. And after that, have a good one, everybody. And we are out of here.
We out.